First of all, first congratulations on a wonderful honor here for you. But as you look out and you see so many of these great people being honored, you've coached many of them. You probably had a lot of them all in your class, and you've seen many of these young people pass through the hallways through your 40-year career. What kind of, well, sitting here the whole time, the last couple of hours, watching all these young people, and you watch and help develop them in some way or other. What is that feeling for you to see that?
It's kind of amazing. Let me first say thanks to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame and to Greg and Tim and everybody that put this together, and thanks for putting me last on the program. Did you say your brother-in-law was Robin or
Robin
Ralph?
Thompson.
Robin?
Ralph is, yeah, Robin's
Robin.
Ralph is older
Okay.
brother, yes.
I don't know if I've got any sound. Anyway,
You're good.
it's pretty awesome seeing all these people, and one of my greatest thrills, in being a teacher and a coach is to have somebody tell me, hey, did you hear Steve Atwater won the Super Bowl, or did you hear John Hayden was named Chief of Police, or did you hear that Bobby Joe Edmonds was a Pro Bowler, or I could just go on, and that to me is one of the greatest things about being a coach, and just to have a player come back 20 years after they graduate from high school and say, playing sports, playing football or playing baseball at Lutheran North made a difference in my life, made me a better person, a better student, a better parent, whatever it was.
Yeah, coach. Every coach is competitive. They want to, wins and losses mean a lot. But I've talked to many coaches. The longer you're in it, it's more than wins and losses, isn't it?
I think you mature a lot as the years go on. Yeah, at the beginning, I remember me, focusing a lot on wins and losses and more on the students as time went by. And I think that's just part of the maturity, part of the process of being a coach.
Well, we know of many dual sport athletes who've had great careers in both football, baseball, basketball at the high school level. But you at football and baseball, I mean, you could probably name on one hand the number of coaches in the area who are in halls of fame as a coach in two different sports, and that's what Mike is, football and baseball. That's amazing. One sport is amazing. He's done it as a baseball and football coach. When you came to Lutheran North in the early '70s as a head coach, what did you have to do to kind of, what were your goals at that time to try to get your program and establish yourself and establish Lutheran North at that time?
That's a good question. I didn't anticipate that one. I don't know that I really had any goals when I first came to Lutheran North. I was looking for a job, and I didn't go through the Lutheran system like a lot of the teachers that go to one of the Concordia schools. I'd gone to Southeast Missouri, and I applied in Hazelwood and Ferguson, Florissant, and I saw something in the paper that Lutheran North was looking for a teacher. And so the gentleman that was the principal at the time took a chance on me, Rich Wallace, and football had already started, and they said, see here that you've never played football, but we have an opening on the football staff, and they've already started practice. Would you be willing to help out? And I said, does that go with the job? And they're like, I'll be out there this afternoon. So Jim Mannion says, they got me another guy that knows nothing about the sport of football to help with football. And then Jim moved on, and Carl Holshin became the head coach, and Carl moved on, and then they hired a gentleman, and in August he was a no-show. And so the principal said, okay, now who's going to be the head coach? And Paul Chrysler and I were both like, And so Paul had more seniority, so he got out of that responsibility. And I became a head football coach after not ever having really played the sport. But I love competition, and I played, a lot of baseball, and it was wrestling, and every other sport I could get involved in. And fell in love with coaching, and couldn't have been in a better place than Lutheran North. Just talented student athletes we had was just phenomenal.
The demand coaching do two different sports at the varsity level for so long. The demands on your time have to be just unbelievable. So I imagine a very understanding wife at home as well as supportive and a family to go along with that. That's a lot.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, they're all. My family stayed around, so I don't know who put me last on the program, but Stephanie's still here, and Brad and Evan and my lovely wife Bonnie right there in the middle. Yes. Not just the spouse, but the entire family has to be understanding of the commitment that you make. And like you said earlier, you don't see too many head football and baseball combinations nowadays because of the year-round nature of the sport. Football just goes and camps and off-season conditioning, and it's very hard to do both. And I was the director of athletics and department chairman and head coach of 2 sports, and so I didn't get home a lot of days till late.
Of course, 500 victories in baseball, but in football, and this is what my brother always he reminds me, the three-peat in 88, 89, and 90. Three-peat in everything but football, competitive sport. How gratifying was that to have 3 consecutive state championships like that?
Well, you have to have some pretty great kids, and you have to be pretty fortunate. You know, we got some breaks, played the right teams at the right time in the right place. The middle game, 89, the middle state championship, we were behind by 12 points with a minute and a half left, and Branson had the football. So we were fortunate to come back and win that game, and it was pretty exciting.
And I set this roughly up. They were down 2 touchdowns, and they scored, got the ball back. I think it was like 10 seconds left in the game. They have the ball in midfield. And usually when you have the ball in midfield with 10 seconds left, what play are you going to throw? Hail Mary, right?
We did have a time. We had a time.
Okay, yeah, but still. But come on, you know the story. You're not good at this. He calls a draw play, and I always say that because I knew they had timeout, but the story is actually. And Sean Morris runs it in from midfield for the winning touchdown. At the time, I call it the most gutsiest call in the history of football. Even with a timeout, who calls a draw play from midfield with everybody? And I was there at Springfield when that happened.
That was our best play, and we went with it.
That shit worked. Fabulous. But like I said, I was the middle, and you win another one, and also the first one. What was the first one with some great players? Bobby Joe was part of that one. Thomas, Tony.
Well, the first one's always special, and somebody said earlier, Jim Mannion laid the groundwork for our program, and Carl Holshin and Rich Langfeld and some of the guys that helped to coach it, helped build the program up over the years. But we had some serious talent, in the early 80s, through the 80s, into the 90s, and Bobby Joe and Thomas Rooks and Tony Buford were all state players and all Division I recruits, and so we should have won. We had great talent, but it was the first one. You think back on it, and it kind of sets a tone for a program, and get your kid. I think one of the other players said they looked, when they were playing, they looked at the pictures of the kids from the first state championship, and they wanted to replicate that. So.
2 more questions for you. First, when you've been around, coach, over 4 decades, that means you're coaching generations of kids. That means adaptability, things. What was it like adapting to maybe you're coaching sons of former players and all that dynamic? What was that experience like?
I think football changed more than baseball has over the years. In football, I'd have, once in a while I'd say, oh yeah, I coached your father, and I think I might have coached your grandfather. I'm like, well, that's the game nowadays with the technology and the film and stuff. We used to make 16 millimeter film, and we couldn't afford to film all the games. We could film like 2 or 3 games, and then we'd have to take it downtown to Channel 5, and then they developed it, and then we picked it up the next day. And nowadays you can watch it while you're playing, and you can email it to next week's opponent, and you can send it to the schools for recruiting, and everything. Technology has just made a big difference in the game.
And finally sum up, what is it like for every day, basically for over 40 years, to get up in the morning, leave the house, and go to a place that you love and deal with young people every day, different generations, that experience like for you?
Well, Earl, I hate getting up in the morning.
I do too.
And there's some people here that can attest to that. I'm usually the last one to show up on campus, but I love being there. Lutheran North's a great place to be, and our administration was always super supportive of athletics. A couple principals here tonight, Paul Chrysler and Tim, and I guess that's all, but every single one we had was just as supportive as they could be, of our athletes and of our athletic program. And so I love doing what I was doing, and I love being retired now, but I love coaching when I was coaching. I couldn't think of anything I would rather done.
And last thing, what Friday night football? I mentioned it earlier. Friday night football at Lutheran North.
Yeah, I've been there. I think it's awesome. I was at the Orchard Farm game too, and at the Trinity game, and at the Lamar game, unfortunately. And it, like Mr. Brockman said, it's just a great boost to the program to have opportunity to bring people out on a Friday night. The crowds they drew, and the excellent football team we had this year. It's really fun to watch.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure covering your teams and watching your athletes over the course of 40 years. Congratulations on this well-deserved Hall of Fame, St. Louis Hall of Fame. Welcome, Mike. That's an institution.